I've heard a lot of stories about Mark Jackson when Clay and Steph were super young that he would tell them and tell everybody on the team, like, you're going to be the greatest shooter ever.
Yeah.
Did you see that in your experience there, that they were going to get where they are?
Well, at my time, so my first year with the Warriors, the coach at the time was Don Nelson. So it was going part of that we believe. So Don Nelson was the coach at the time. That was Steph Curry's first year. Monte Ellis at that time had that accident with the scooter.
Yeah.
And so they drafted Steph Curry. And when I think about that whole era being with Golden State, Don Nelson made every single player on that team better. At that time he had, Steven Jackson was on our team at that time, Al Harrington. You had a lot of
Matt
characters.
Barnes, all those guys.
A lot of characters on that team. But what Don Nelson did was he put every single player in the most uncomfortable position. If you were a point guard, you were going to guard 2s and 3s. If you were a 2 or 3, you had to guard 4s and 5s, and situationally, you were guard 1s and 2s. So he put everyone in those uncomfortable positions because he felt like it was the best thing for them, because he was more about the run and gun. He didn't care less about the damn defense part. He wanted to outscore you, right? Yeah. And he wanted every single player to have an advantage. So if you were a 1, and this is what they did to Steph a whole lot, that he was playing, 3s that were bigger, faster, stronger. But on the other side, they had to guard Steph, or they had to guard Monte, or Steven Jackson. They probably had a 4 or 5 that was guarding him, and he was at the 3. And he would blow past those guys, or brought them outside out of the paint to shoot the 3. It was that whole part of that era of basketball during that time. So for me, I love that experience that I had with Golden State. For me, being a 2 or a 3 when, before with the Clippers, here I am, where Don Nelson basically said, like, all right, it's open for grabs. Who wants these positions, right? And he goes around and says, all right, so-and-so, you're here, Steven Jackson, you're at the 2, Al Harrington, you're at the 3. I'm like, damn, I know I had a great training camp. All right, Corey, you're going to start at the 4.
Whoa.
I literally started at the 4 for those years when I was with Golden State, which was so funny, but it taught me how to get out of my comfort zone of not being able to guard those bigger guys. I remember a situation that I guarded Shaq.
Jesus.
I was guarding those 4s, guarding Dirk, or guarding, I remember LaMarcus Aldridge. So any 4 during that time, I was guarding them. And I was, I'm 6'6", right? Yeah. I was strong enough
only
to
6'6".
guard them. But I was strong enough to guard them. But those guys were, if they were 6'9", 6'10", 7-footers. And I had to use my quickness and get them in foul trouble, to put our team in the bonus early. So, I had a great experience then, and to see how Steph was able to grow. He took everything, everywhere I went in the weight room, Steph was there, because I was one of the guys leading in the weight room. All right, what is Corey, what is he doing?
Awesome.
And we had
Cool.
we had a great strength and conditioning guy. What's his name? His John Meyer. He was amazing. He was a black belt in karate, and he would just do crazy things. And right, so I just wanted to be that guy that wanted to soak up all that information in the gym. And if I turned and looked to the left, you saw Steph right there. He was in the weight room, or we out on the court. Right, we play one-on-ones every single day.
Damn.
Every single day. One of the coaches, he just had an amazing ability to push people to want to play one-on-ones. And I love that about him, man. He, every single day. And so we played those, so we got that opportunity to get players better every single day. And you saw Steph just working hard. To be honest, if anyone say that they saw this coming from Steph, you're a liar.
Yeah.
You're a liar. Now, when Mark Jackson said that he saw some in him, you can always see, greatness in players. You can see their work ethic. for me, what I saw in Steph at that time, I saw the work ethic. I saw the will to want to get better. Here you are, a rookie coming in, and you have these veteran guys on the team. You know, you got guys that are averaging 18 or had averaged 19. I was coming where averaging 20 points game going into this year with Golden State. And so he was just open to learn. But he wasn't afraid to do his thing on the court, right? And so when you look at that part of how he grew, his growth from a player, it all started by him just soaking up all that information and the one-on-ones that we had every single day for his development. And if you fast forward, you know, those few years after that, Steph had a major ankle injuries, right? And so I remember him having physical therapy. We're going to physical therapy. He's like, man, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with my ankle, with surgery. You know, I don't know if the Warriors are going to keep me. He had that doubt in himself at that time because he wasn't sure, because, you know, he had these major ankle injuries. And, you know, I remember saying, hey, Steph, you just gotta keep fighting, bro, because I knew at that time I've had major injuries, right? And I didn't want those injuries to be the story. So I just fought to come back. Around that time, I was fighting, right? You know, if you said I was going to come back in 8 weeks, no, I'm going to come back in 4 weeks, right? Wow. You know, so for him, I can only go by what I said to keep fighting and push through those limits. And I know Steph has an incredible, you know, support system and his faith in God, you know, to help him along that journey. But something clicked with Steph. And it wasn't just what he did in his work ethic. I am a firm believer that it was Mark Jackson that he had a great way of really empowering not just Clay, but Steph, that he really believed, to what you said. He believed in those guys, and he allowed them to be great. Now, a lot of players, there's so many players that are sitting on the bench that won't even get a chance to play because there's a minutes game, right? There's a money situation, right? You know, I saw a podcast the other day. Guy was talking about, you might have, I believe it was Darius Miles. You might have a guy that can go out there and hoop that is actually better than the other player, but if he's only making, you know, $900,000 and this dude is making $18 million a year, you're not going to get those minutes. They're going to give him those minutes. And so when you think about that entire part of it, that's where you see the growth in the game. And, you know, for Steph and how he truly developed, because Mark Jackson just kept fighting for them every day, letting them play through mistakes every single day. Hey, yeah, you could take those shots. Bro, those shots, you could not take those shots in my era, bro. You could not.
They're nuts.
Get benched.
You would be benched.